So this is a lesson that you can look at while I'm out for the next 2 weeks. And it is basically the same thing we've been doing from this book, Rockin Bass Drum. You should probably get this at some point. It is the first lesson. It is the top of page 6. You might have noticed that we're staying with this a little bit longer than we would have if Dave were teaching you. It was my opinion that you were being moved along too quickly through things, because some of you know how to play this stuff, but very haltingly and not without a whole lot of confidence, or only one way. Like, that's not how that's supposed to sound. It's supposed to be real relaxed and be able to play this a few different ways. Play them all a few different ways at various tempos, say slow, medium, fast, 50, 100, 150, 60, 120, 180, whatever it is, but also at different dynamic levels. Sure, you want to be able to hit them hard sometimes, but you also want to be able to play these things nicely sometimes. That's so light, my bass drum trigger won't even pick it up. Hear that? So I can fix that later. But that's just the tip of that iceberg. You also need to be able to play these parts together, sure, but also separately. And the reason for that is, if you get these parts down separately, it'll help you much later for not only learning more of this stuff as we go through the book, but more of anything out there, songs and other things. I can't tell you, for instance, I do want you to learn how to go eighth notes on your right hand, either on your ride cymbal or hi-hat, or if you're left-handed, wherever you want to put it. The top line, which is the top part of this, the cymbal line, which is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And you need to be able to play that completely separately from everything. Because I can't tell you how many songs that I play in my cover bands out there that start with 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then a chorus comes in or something, and all of a sudden you're off and running. And these separate parts relate to these other grooves later on. It also will let you know that if you can do all of these parts separately and together in different combinations, at different speeds, at different levels, you know that. And we're not moving on from it until you do, because all of this book and all of that other stuff builds on this. This first line, this first groove along the top, has 4 parts. You got 4 limbs in here, and there's 4 parts. The top line, in this case, is the cymbal. They want you on the bow or the shoulder of the ride cymbal. Now, if you go up on the bell, you can hear that that's pronounced, but they basically want you here, not here. It's too washy. You can't hear individual notes. You need to get up towards there, and that's where you can hear the individual notes the way that you will when you're tapping on a hi-hat, especially when it's closed. Forgive me, because this isn't going to be super polished right here. I'm just doing this in one take, so I'll do more videos later, and they'll be more polished and shorter and all that, but this is just to get you going and understand what we're doing here. The next line, as far as they're concerned, is the left hand is on the snare drum. And for the whole first half of this book, your right hand, your left hand, and your left foot, as long as you're playing on a right-handed kit, are all the same. You're going to be playing eighth notes on your cymbal, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You're going to be playing quarter notes on your snare drum, and only on 2 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That's it. Now, they do want you to do a hi-hat foot chick on 2 and 4 as well. Now, depending on your kit, you may not even be able to hear it very well, but it's more than just for hearing. It's for overall coordination and overall groove. I find that when I play, again, in my bands, I'm in 7 of them. So no offense, I know what I'm talking about. I find that if I'm just in a mood or something and I'm just playing and I'm not moving my left foot, it's a little stiff. And then I start moving my foot to the groove. It just feels better. It locks me in. And maybe it's only a me thing. But I
3, 4, 1, 2, 3.
So there's that.
4, 1.
Now right now,
2,
this is counting
4, 1.
quarter notes.
2,
3, 4. I'm going to have it count quarter notes for now because I want you to build this up slowly, okay? Start with quarter notes and start with whichever limb feels good to you. For me, it's my right hand. But we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you want to, 2, 3, 4. They want you to, so we'll leave it there. Now, that's your right hand, the top line. Left hand, on the snare drum, 2 and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice your hands are coming down at the same time now. Okay? It's pretty easy. That's nice to be able to do that. Now, I'm going to put in the left foot, even if you won't be able to hear it. And if the left foot is throwing you off for right now, you can leave it out a little bit and add it later. But it is really important to do. It's kind of the difference between a good drummer and a great drummer a little bit, is to be able to put that in there. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now notice I'm not going and slamming it down. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. There is a difference between volume and presence. And too many people confuse playing loud with playing well. You don't have to beat your drums to get good sounds out of them. Now, if you want them to be able to respond when you hit them harder, sure. But for practice, you don't have to do that. And in fact, it's not good to do that. You're just going to get tired. You're going to get bad technique. You're using a whole arm. You're just here. Look, I'm barely moving. I'm barely moving. Relax. It's not a race to see who can hit the hardest. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you notice you might have to open your hi-hat on the and of the 1 and 2 to have it come in. Too many people go 1, 2, 3, like it's, oh my gosh, it's there. Relax. You can open it anytime you want. You can leave it open. I don't know if you can see it very well, but it's open. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. You can open up on 3, open up, whatever you want to do. And of course, you don't have to open it this far. I have it open this far so that it sounds loud enough on here for you to hear it. A lot of people only have it just very, very, very mildly open, just a little. That's all you need to get that what we call bark, a hi-hat bark, which is when you open it slightly and then hit it. That's a difference as opposed to just tapping it. But I've got a little pronounced here just so you can hear it a little bit more. So those 3 limbs, 1, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, those are all quarter notes. And your feet and your hands are all coming down at the same time, which is helpful. But now we're going to add the 8th notes, which is going to sound
1,
like
2,
this.
3.
Those are
1, 2, 3, 4, and 1,
and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. Now, she is counting that top line, just 8th notes. So we're going to put in the 8th notes on the right hand, and there's also an 8th note on the, excuse me, on the foot. You can see it's right after the 4. It's right after the 4th quarter note. It's 4 and. That's an 8th note. So now you're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now notice, just because you're playing more notes doesn't mean you're playing them faster or harder. You're just putting a note in between. I'll do it with her to show you what I mean.
1 and
Quarter notes.
and
3,
and
4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's not any faster.
2 and 3
Still at 60.
and 1
Just you're putting an extra note in there. And here it is.
and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and
Those are the eighth notes.
2 and
I'm not hitting on the quarters.
4 and
Now we'll do the quarters.
and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
Notice, not faster or slower, just more notes in there, in the same space. Kind of like on a clock between 4 and 5. There's all those ticks, and you can say it's 1 minute, and it still goes from here to here in the same amount of time. Or you can say it's 60 seconds, 60 more ticks, tick, 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 tick. It still takes the same amount of time. It's just more stuff in the same space. And so now we're going to have her count that, and we're going to play that with not only our right hand, but our right foot. Because there is an eighth note there after the 4. Now, we're still stuck with quarter notes here on the left hand and the left foot. And you will be for literally half of this book. So don't worry about changing those. These don't really change. In fact, once you play the eighth notes on your right hand, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, that doesn't change either for half of this book because they want you to concentrate on changing your bass drum. And that's the whole thing. So, and we'll get to that in a second. So here she is again.
1 and
2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and quarter notes. Here comes eighth notes. 3 and 4 and. Now we're going to put in that quarter note on our 2. 1 and 2 and 4. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. There's your foot. 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Congratulations! You just played all 3 limbs of not only that groove, but the grooves for half of this book. This doesn't change. So once you get that part down, you can concentrate on this. And that's going to change with every groove in here pretty much. But there is almost a constant. It's not in every one. But for the bass drum line, which is the 3rd line, the hi-hat line is the bottom one, the 4th one, and it says BD right on there. For the bass drum line, you'll see that you hit on 2 quarter notes, the 1 and the 3, okay? And you hit on 1/8 note, the and after the 4 of the snare drum. 1 and 3 and 4 and, right? But coming up is the 16th note, which is the E of the 2. So first we're going to play these 3 lines like we have, and we're going to add the bass drum strictly on the quarter notes, 1 and 3, which is this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, snare, or, and as I probably told you, this beat is in hundreds of songs on the radio right now. It's very useful and depends on how you play it. This is just pretty straight, no real attitude in there at all. But if you open up the hi-hat a little bit, and if you accent the quarter note on the hi-hat, all of a sudden you went from Men at Work to AC/DC with a very little change. So we're going to do it with her this time.
1 and
2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and quarter notes only. 1 and 2 and bass drum and snare and bass 1 snare 2 bass 3 snare 4. get comfortable doing that because it is the basis of just a ton of stuff. I play this or a variation of this all night long with cover bands. Either it's faster or it's slower, or it's 4 on the floor, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the bass drum, or a little bit of variation here and there, but it's in a lot of songs. So this is a crazy important thing to do. I'm going to tell you a quick story. I wasn't going to do this. There's a drummer named Vinnie Colaiuta. He is probably one of, if not the most advanced, amazing drummers on planet Earth. He can play anything he wants to play. Metal, jazz, rock, funk, punk, pop, rock, you name it. And all you have to do is put this in front of him and he can sight read it. Doesn't need to even check what it is. Looks at it and plays it perfectly. And plays it perfectly in time. Every time. He can do anything he wants. Okay. So they had a clinic with Vinnie Colaiuta. His whole 6-7 piece drum set was set up. And by the way, when we mean pieces, we don't mean cymbals. We only mean drums. When we say 5-piece kit, 6-piece kit, that's what we mean. So he had his kit set up and all these people paid all this money to see him. And he comes out and doesn't say a word. And for 45 minutes, I swear, he goes. And at first people are like, okay. And then they're going, and after 45 minutes of that, he goes and walks off. When he was interviewed after that, he said, where did I put them? He said, so many drummers want to go and all that stuff, and that's great. But if you can't do this, do it well. And do it at different dynamics, volumes, different speeds, and keep it in time for a long time. I don't care if you can go. And I agree with him. That is the basis of everything. So even if all you're going to do is just practice, it's so important to get it down well and get it down right so that you can add the other flourishes later and the other things later, and it will sound good. So we did the 1 and 3. Now let's add the 8th note, the and of the 4. And let's have her do it.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3
And 1, 3, and 1, 3, and 1. So I'm just telling you the bass drum part. And 1, 3, and 1, 3, and 1. Okay, so what you do with all of this from the very beginning, even just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and by the way, you'll notice that I'm not playing it entirely straight. I'm not going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I'm doing a touch of an accent, just a little bit louder on the quarter notes. Right? That makes it sound good. Makes it sound human, rather than technically still the same. Technically still 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But now it sounds like a clock. Who wants to hear that? Makes you move. So once you're practicing this 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you think you've got it down at 60, good, that's good. But now move it to 70. Move it around your kit. Get used to playing it everywhere. You're not only going to play it here. Not at all. Again, tons of songs where I'm going. That's just this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But on the bass, on the floor tom, it's different. And if you get it down at 70, great. Put it to 80, 90, keep getting it up till you can play a slow, medium, and a fast tempo. Here is that 160 to 120.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1.
And if you can't do that, it might have something to do with how you're playing. If you're using your whole arm to hit every note, you're gonna get tired. We probably talked about how to grip the stick so that it, look, I'm not doing anything. So that it bounces a little bit. These sticks actually have a place where you kind of put your fingers, but they all have one, except for these. These are huge. Anyway, oh, it's gonna hit me in the back. I told you this was gonna be a little choppy. Don't go anywhere. There you go. Anyway, so you want your stick to do a little bit of the work for you. And you just want to control that chaos a little bit. So get used to doing this kind of thing, because that's how you're going to play. This is 180 beats a minute. And yes, I play things that are this fast and faster on Fridays and Saturday nights. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. But if I had to muscle each one of those out, oh my gosh, I probably couldn't do it. So you have to get your stick to do some of the work for you. Let it bounce. And just control the bounce a bit. Let it flick back and forth between your fingers. Let it dance a little bit. If you're holding them like baseball bats, that's why you're not getting speed out and power without using your whole arm to do it. I know it might look cool, but you can't do that forever. Let this do some of the work for you. Okay? So even as you're doing these parts, try to get them up to faster speeds. So let's go back to something a little bit more legitimate here. How about 100 so we can still hear the parts?
1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
That's reasonable. So we've done now all the parts and the bass drum as a quarter note, 1 and 3, and an eighth note, the and of the 4. Now we're going to add the 16th note. And for some of you, this is where things go awry, because this is the first note out of all of these notes on this page that doesn't fall on your right hand note. Your right hand's going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Well, your snare's going 2, 4 at the same time. Your hi-hat's going 2, 4 at the same time. Even all of those bass drum notes, except for that E, are at the same time. 1, 3, and. They're all coming down at the same time. The 16th note is in between, as you'll see on the bass drum key just below it. With the dotted line coming up, it's just in between those two notes. That 2 and, it's... Did you hear it? You can see it too. It's almost like you're hitting the bass drum while your stick pulls back. And you can kind of practice it that way. I'm doing that. I'm exaggerating that for visual effect. But you can kind of practice it that way and go. You're just playing in between that note. And we could do it really slow. And we'll leave her down there for a moment. 1, 1 and 2 and. See that? I'll do it over here because it's quieter. 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and. 1 and That's where it's landing. Well, now put that on your foot. 1 and 2 E and 1 and 2 E and. If you want to, pull your stick back to give you something to do at the same time, because you're kind of hitting this while you're doing nothing with this. 1 and 2 E and. See how I hit when I pull my stick back? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and right. So 1 and 2 and 3 and go to put them all in. 1 and 2 E and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 E and 3 and 4 and 1. Sorry about that. So you're hitting that note in between those two eighth notes, hence 16th notes. So they're introducing you to 16th notes on the very first one. It's just one of them, but it's there. And it'll sound like this when you put it all together. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3, 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and here comes the 16th, 3 and 4. I'm gonna move it here, you can hear it better. 3 and 1, 2 E, 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 3. I gotta change my bass drum. It's not getting my lighter. You can hear me tapping it, but it doesn't quite get it. By the way, if you have an electric kit, that might be something to look at. There are various levels of sensitivity that your triggers, these are all triggers, can have. So if you're doing something like that, you're doing all this work and it's not getting it. There it is. So anyway, you can play around with that in your brain. But to go very slowly again, 1 and 2 E and 3, 4 and 1, 2 E, 3, 4 and 1, 2 E, 3, 4 and 1. And again, when that's all together, and see, that's easy. That's not a hard thing for me to do. And it doesn't have to be hard for you to do too. Just build it up slowly, build it up in pieces, and then put them all together. And what you want to be able to do is leave things out, yet just be able to identify what you're doing in this thing. For instance, here is the thing. Now I'm going to leave out the 16th note. Now put it back. Now leave out the 8th note on the 4. Now leave out the 16th note. Now I'll only play the 16th note. Now play only the 8th note. There it is. Now how about the 16th and the 8th? Whoops, sorry. Now play it all, but leave out the snare drum. Now leave out the cymbal. You need to be able to play that thing in all different permutations, at different volumes, at different speeds. And one more thing. We might have talked about a fill at the end of it. So if you're just going, at 60 beats a minute and you're getting bored. Put a fill. And the thing is, you have to do the fill so that it doesn't throw the time off. Whatever your time is, whatever your speed happens to be, it should stay in it. And maybe say, come back in on the 1. So we talked about a fill. This will be the last part of this. It is Pat Boone, Debbie Boone. And what that is just a cadence, just a way of saying 1 and 2E. And I guess it'll be 1. Yeah, it ends on the and, so to speak. So instead of saying, give me a 1 and 2E and, or it's Pat Boone, Debbie Boone. Pat Boone, Debbie Boone. So you can start by putting the first names, Pat and Debbie, on the snare. And put the Boone, the last names, on the toms. The top one and the bottom one. Pat Boone, Debbie Boone. You can also do what I just did. Out of those 5 notes, Pat Boone, Debbie Boone, I played 4 of them with my right hand. Watch. Pat Boone, Debbie Boone. I played Pat Boone, Deb Boone with my right hand. Probably because I'm right-handed. But you can go alternate. Pat Boone, Debbie Boone. Whoops, sorry. Pat Boone, Debbie Boone. I did right, left, right. You can do that if you want to. You can, however you play it is comfy and good for you, as long as the notes come out there the way they're supposed to. So as long as the cadence is the same, it doesn't matter how you play it or where you put those notes. That's the part that's up to you. That's the part where you get to have fun. Whatever. But it will start on the 3. So when you play this a couple times, you're going to not play the 4 and as written. You're going to put in a fill. I'll show you what I mean. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, here it comes, and 2 and 3. That's where the Pat Boone, Debbie Boone is going to start. So instead of going 3 and playing that the way you want it to, you're not going to be playing these things the same. You're going to go, which is going to take you right to there. 4 and you come right back in on the 1. Let me do it right. Here comes. 3 and 1, 2E. Pat Boone, Debbie Boone. 1. 3 and right? So you're taking up that same space, just doing something different. Now, I would suggest that you actually play some bass drum in the fill, during the fill. Here's what it sounds like without it. Let's do 1 and 3. The bottom kind of drops out a little bit. But let's, for instance, play a 4 on the floor. 1, 2, 3, 4. And put a Pat Boone, Debbie Boone in there with the bass drum still there. Listen. I'll play the hi-hat. Here the bass drum is still there through it, and it keeps it grounded and solid. That's what this does a lot of the times too, but this does it with a heavy foundation. So you can do this 1, 2 in, 3, 4, and 1. When you get bored, Pat Boone, Debbie Boone, but put in a bass drum in there as you're playing it. See that? Pat Boone, Debbie Boone. Pat Boone, Debbie Boone. it's there. Now, as far as the Pat Boone, Debbie Boone is concerned, you can get bored with that too. Pretty boring after a while. Although it's a fine fill, it's fine. Well, just do it the opposite. Instead of putting the first names, Pat and Debbie, on the snare and the last names on the toms, flip it. Put the first names on the toms and the last name on the snare. Did I do that right? No, I didn't. Pat Boone, Debbie Boone, right? I've done it the other way so often, it's weird. There you go. But you can move them anywhere you want. You can do anything you want with them. It could be on a cymbal, whatever. Nah, don't do that. That's a little bit later. You can put them all on the snare, on the tom. It's all good. You're making up fills. Here's another thing you can do to stick with Pat Boone, Debbie Boone, because it is 5 notes. And you are starting it on the 3, and you will end on the end of the 4, and you will come right back in on the 1. It's a good fill to practice with this exercise. Do it a little bit different. Do, instead of a Pat Boone, Debbie Boone, do a Fat Boone, Debbie Boone, which is a flam instead of pat. The one hand comes down ahead of the other, and the one comes right behind it. It's that. Not that far apart. I'm just showing it, but it makes this note a little bit fatter. Fat Boone. That's a Fat Boone, Debbie Boone. Or a Splat Boone, Debbie Boone, which is when you do, instead of 1 note ahead, right there on the 3, you're going to have to start a little bit ahead of the 3, like on the of the 3. When you end a 3, that's a 16th note. And what you'll do is you'll go, see, I'm barely touching. This is called a drag, where you're going da-da-da, da-da-da, and you're not, that's what it is, but it doesn't sound like that. It's not, you're going, that's 3 notes. And they're a little bit quieter. But this one still comes in on 3. So you got to do a little bit ahead of it. So that's a Splat Boone, Debbie Boone. And of course, you don't have to put the boons there. So you can move this thing around any way you want. But all of this is for you to not get bored. All of this is for you to learn this really well. Learn it in parts. Learn as a whole. Learn quiet. Learn loud. Learn slow, medium, fast. So when you go to the next one, you're going to be like, this is cake. I already know half of this. That's that one. How about this one? That's that one. How about this one? So these all build on each other. And when you put that fill in, you are now playing like you would in a song. For instance, let's do this.
1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9
Well, you see, I got a little bit ahead of it. Mistakes are going to happen. I see a lot of people go, when they practice and they mess up, they go, relax. Mistakes are going to happen. Mistakes are going to happen when you are the top drummer in the world out live. You're going to go, you're going to drop a stick. You're going to break one in the middle of a song. It's going to happen. You have to be able to learn to keep going and just get back on track. Oh no! There you go. Hey, hear that? Hey you! And then someone throws you the stick, or you have one right here and you go, or you make a mistake, or your trigger doesn't get every note down. So you go, oh, I have to hit that a little harder. It's okay. Mistakes are part of it. In fact, some of Stuart Copeland's best playing, the drummer for the Police, were mistakes. So anyway, and again, I'll do it over here so you can hear it. That Pat Boone, Debbie Boone. Well, here's a flat Boone, Debbie Boone. You might not hear the difference too much. Flam coming up. There's a difference between that and that. And then there's a splat. So I just did that two different ways. One way, I started it with the right hand first and hit the hit with my left. But I didn't like that. So I decided to do it with my left hand. So my right hand could come right down on that note where it needs to be. And that's the importance of trying these things both hands. Later on, you're going to go, okay, I got this down. And I'm going to say, oh yeah? Play it left hand lead. Now, you could probably hear even mine. That's a little stiffer than this. This feels a little bit better because I've done this for most of my life. So you got to get used to doing a lot of different things because some drum parts that you will see or songs that you want to play will require you to go and keep that hi-hat part with your left hand so your right hand can move all around. Try to do it normally. You got to get your right hand out of the way of your left. So it's good to also, when you think you've got this thing down like this, go and remember to try to switch those parts and play it that way. So again, have fun doing this. And there's one other thing that you can do. If you have a electronic drum set, it probably has some songs on it. And those songs are great things to sort of play along with. Let me stop the metronome function. Let's see. And they're great things to play along with because they are keeping time for you. They are playing in time, but it's not boring. Let's see. Make some a little less, there you go. So if you've got some tunes that you can play along with, that's great. If you don't have an electronic drum set, you can probably get tunes on your phone. I think they're called drumless tracks. They're songs, but without the drums. And so you could play, what is that? I guess I don't know how fast. Oh, that's 80 beats a minute right there. So if you were playing 80 beats a minute like this, and you were bored, put that on. play around a little bit with fills and things like that. Okay, so that's basically, by the way, what you should be doing with all this stuff. As we move on, start with something slow, start with something simple, start with one hand, put in the other, build it up, and I would suggest this first, at least for half this book, because the bass drum is what changes for the first half of this book. For the second half of the book, all bets are off. Everything is all over the place. But for now, it's your ride hand, hi-hat hand is going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and your snare hand is going 2, 4. Your left foot, your hi-hat foot is going 2, 4. It's the bass drum that changes. Have fun. See you when I'm back on vacation, from vacation.